G'day, I'm Dan from BirdDog. In this video, I'll show you how to upgrade the firmware on your P200 camera. To do this, you'll need a couple of things. You'll need a USB stick, access to the internet, and of course access to your P200 camera. The P200 update is actually done in two steps. We have the baseboard or MCU update, which is done by the USB stick. And then we have the main processor board or the NDI update, which is done through the web user interface. So let's get that USB stick prepared first for step one. In order to prepare the USB stick, we need to get the latest firmware. To do this, go to the BirdDog website at www.bird-dog.tv. When you get to the BirdDog website, simply go to the support section and scroll down to firmware updates. On this page, you'll find firmware updates for all BirdDog products. In this case, scroll down to the P200. You'll see here the firmware we have ends in 3384. That's the latest version at the moment. Click on it to download. You'll see the folder it creates is called a firmware pack, and in here we have both the baseboard firmware as well as the main update. Inside this firmware pack you'll find some PDF documents detailing the process as well as some files that you'll need to run. The first thing you want to do is identify what version of camera you have. If you look at the serial number at the bottom of your camera, the first set of digits will end in A1, 2 or 3 for the first series of cameras, or A4, A5, or even another number which indicates the second series. Once you've identified this number, simply go to the firmware pack and you'll see there's two folders. One that says A2, A3, which would be for the first series, and one that says A4, A5, which is for all others. In this case, my camera is an A5, so if I double click on this folder, you will find the two-step process that we need to do. Inside the step 1 folder, you will find a bin file. This is the firmware update that needs to be put onto the USB stick to update the baseboard of the camera. It's important to do this one first before we then go to the NDI update. Now, in order to update the baseboard, you'll need a USB stick. In this case, I've got a generic 16GB USB stick. It's important to format this in the correct way to make sure that the firmware updates correctly. I'll show you how to do this now. When you insert a USB stick, it'll come up on your computer. In this case, it's coming up as new volume. In order to format it correctly, I'm going to right-click on this computer and click on Manage. Go down to Disk Management and you'll find your removable disk here. In this case, it looks like a generic USB. I'm just going to right-click on here and delete the volume though, and format it in a way that the camera will definitely like. So once we have an unallocated volume, right-click again and create a new simple volume of 2 GB, that's 2000 megabytes. Click Next, Next again, and ensure the file system is set to FAT. Press Next and Finish. This process will take around about 30 seconds and then you'll have a freshly formatted USB stick in the correct format. Now that your USB stick is prepared, simply drop that HD20 file onto the USB stick and eject it. Before I get started, I want to check the firmware we have currently on the P200. To do this, simply go to the web interface and on the dashboard it'll show you the firmware version. In this case, it's got version 3.3, so we know we have a newer update in the version we downloaded. Another thing to double check is to make sure that the baseboard is upgraded correctly. Now, a simple thing to do is go to the PTZ section, turn on the on-screen display, and you'll notice that the menu now comes up on my NDI monitor here. If I scroll down to the system menu, you'll see down the bottom there's an SV, which is the serial number version. This tells you the firmware that this board is currently running. It's good to check this to double confirm once we've updated that it has indeed taken that new firmware. So this camera has a baseboard ending in 006. Okay, let's get started. Plug the USB stick into the upgrade port on the back of the camera. Then remove the power and power the camera back on. Once your camera is rebooted, log back into the web user interface and we can get stuck into the second step of the update. For step 2, you'll need to go to the system menu and choose System Update. Then you choose your file, which will be in the step 2 folder of the firmware pack we downloaded. Just be sure to use the correct series of camera again, like we did in the first step. In this case, mine's an A5 camera, and I go to step 2 and select the FW file to update. I press Update. This process can take about 5 minutes depending on how much it needs to upgrade on your baseboard. Please be patient and ensure never to turn it off while this is happening. Okay, so now you've rebooted your camera for the second time in the upgrade process. Let's check that all the firmware updates have happened and everything's working properly. Firstly, log into your web user interface again, and you'll see now the firmware version has been updated. The next thing you want to do is make sure that the on-screen display and baseboard has been upgraded as well. You want to move over to the PTZ settings, go to on-screen display, turn on-screen display on, scroll down to the system menu, and press the right button. You'll see now the firmware update has changed. This indicates that it was successful and you're ready to go. Thanks for watching this short video on how to upgrade your firmware on your P200 camera. For more information, please go to our website at www.bird-dog.tv.